Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at johnnydellsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49.
What is up this morning? I am flying solo. Adam gives his best regards. Give me a mic check in the chat. I need to make sure that the mic is working. Sometimes it says it's working on my end, but it may not sound right on your end. So make sure you let me know if that is working. I'm going to shut my AC off because I can hear it, and it is still warm in Alabama. I'm just saying. But that was a good game. I do apologize for everybody that was waiting to see if I was going to be doing the live on assist broadcast Sunday. I ended up not being able to start the broadcast on time because I was like an hour and a half behind the broadcast. So I watched everything. I think by the time I ended up finishing what I watched of the game, it was only about 15-20 minutes behind everybody else, but it was that was a little bit of a stressful game, a little bit of a nail biter at some times, but it was a great win, and it was a win nonetheless. And people say, well, you know, it's the Saints. They were a bad team last year. I will say it doesn't matter because you are playing a team in the NFL, and every game matters. Every game matters. Thank you so much, Mr. G49er00. It says, good morning, the man, the myth, the legend, Master Shift, the Obi-Wan of football. You are way too kind, far too kind. All these superlatives being thrown my way, but I appreciate it. Bang, bang, Niner gang, let's go. I've been immersed in the film. Sorry if anybody's messaged me this morning or anything. I pretty much downloaded the film this morning and have been diving in because this is going to be a little bit of a short show. I've got to run to a dentist appointment today. Why I scheduled the dentist appointment the day after a 49ers game, I don't know. They just said that was the day that they had available, and I scheduled it 3 months ago. But got to do what you got to do. I've made it through. I think I'm in about halfway through the second quarter of the film right now. So it's really fun to watch so far. I will say, just even through middle way through the second quarter and watching through the game that we had yesterday, Spencer Rattler, people thought, and some of y'all didn't believe me. I was at the Senior Bowl and I came away and I said that there was something about this kid, Spencer Rattler. I said it on this show when we were doing the Senior Bowl shows when I was down there, and then talked about it on my X account when the Saints gave him a little bit of playing time last year. I was really interested to see him because he really showed something at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was really decisive and had a good processor on his reads. I felt like he was a sneaky good athlete that could really make some off-schedule plays, and he looked head and shoulders above the other quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl that year. And if it wasn't for Spencer Rattler playing really, really good football. This is a blowout win for the 49ers. There were so many plays that the 49ers should have had like 6 sacks in that game. The throws he made, there were several plays that were not on him, that were incompletions, that were on his receiver. I'm not just talking about the drops. I'm meaning moments where receivers should have sat their route down versus zone, and the guys kept running, and he was throwing it as if they were going to do it against zone or against man. And so like there were plays like that. Other times that looked like the defensive line was just causing so much chaos, and he was still able to get out of there somehow and either make it a short completion or an incompletion or go and scramble for yards. That this was a really impressive game by Spencer Rattler. Now I know we're not talking about Spencer Rattler, but just for perspective, this was an offense that absolutely took it down to the wire against the Cardinals in week 1. That if it wasn't for a big time drop, Spencer Rattler threw an incredible ball that should have tied the game against the Cardinals. This kid is showing a lot of really positive signs as a quarterback. And Robert Saleh said as much in his presser, and people said it was just coach speak. Well, you got to see what I saw at the Senior Bowl, what Robert Saleh saw on tape, that there is something to this kid, and that we're going to need to look back on this game, I think, in perspective, and say the 49ers defense was actually a lot better than we give them credit for what they were able to do in that game. And so, and especially just put it in perspective with what we saw with some of the quarterback play last night in the Sunday Night Football game. Also, this puts Brock Purdy's rookie year really into perspective. When you see some of the quarterback play of young quarterbacks, it just makes it that much more impressive what Brock did in his rookie year as a 7th round pick, that he came in and the 49ers played the way they did in 2022. And then what he went and did in 2023, after only like 9 starts his rookie year. It wasn't like he was a seasoned veteran at that point. Like week 2 of the NFL for me has been the perspective week, of like just watching through perspective on things. Now, what you also see is that the 49ers do have a ways to go. They have some growth that needs to happen, especially on the defensive side of the ball. As good as they were, there's moments that really do need some growth, but I'm seeing positive growth. If even I look at just the first couple quarters there on the defensive side of the ball, Alfred Collins looks so much better than he did in his first preseason game to his second preseason game. This is somebody that went there. You're going to think it's coach speak and you're going to hear it, but they are going to come out and say he's a kid that keeps getting better every week. He just keeps growing and he keeps getting better every day. They're going to say that. You actually do see that on tape. There was a number of runs that he won and he didn't necessarily get the tackle, but he clogged everything up front side, forced it backside to a linebacker who made the tackle. And he's really starting, as Robert Saleh said, get his feet underneath him. You can see that the footwork is better. It's tying into the hand technique. Though you're seeing now with him some of the marriage of hands to the feet, which is really important. It's really important for defensive linemen. So that's really exciting to see. Michael Williams, it's not, again, just the plays that you see out there. He's starting to come along. He's starting to play faster. He's using that length. It was really fun to see several reps of him against Kelvin Banks Jr. because that's a really good barometer of where both these guys are from when they met each other halfway through the season last year when Georgia played Texas. And I watched that game like 3 times. I was just really trying to watch everybody, but because you had so many good players from Texas and Georgia, Alfred Collins being one, Kelvin Banks Jr. being one, you had Jalen Walker being one, you had Micah Williams. I was watching Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. I was watching some of the safeties. Like there was a lot to watch out of that game, but one of the funnest matchups through that game was Micah Williams on Kelvin Banks Jr. That was a really fun matchup to watch. And Kelvin Banks kind of struggled with Michael Williams, especially with his length and just the raw athleticism that he had. And that continued into this matchup. That Kelvin Banks, even being as high drafted as he was, and these guys are drafted like one right after the other in the draft, that Michael Williams was still giving him a lot of fits. And then Nick Bosa went against Kelvin Banks Jr. and absolutely moonwalked him into Spencer Rattler. And the only reason that one wasn't a sack is Rattler got rid of the ball with an incredibly fast release. So, but yeah, it was, it really was a great kind of fun. It's been fun to watch that defense. Now, Renardo Green, he settled down after the first quarter. He was guessing on a lot of routes in that first quarter. That he almost gave up a touchdown because he was guessing it was an out route because he got beat on the out route earlier. Then he guessed it was an out route again, and it was a route down the seam, and he nearly gave up a touchdown. Can't have those moments because that's the difference. That's the difference in the game right there. But it was good to see. Also, I guess backtracking a little bit, the chat is reminding me about that. We found out the news this morning of Joe Burrow's turf toe injury. Again, we got to put some things in perspective. I know it gets frustrating to see the 49ers in the injury news because they did lose 2 more players during the game in losing Ben Barch and Kyle Juszczyk during the game. You start wondering, like, how many times can you lose starters and keep this going? Because they've lost so many people, especially with Brock Purdy already being down. But we do need to be thankful that Brock's injury wasn't nearly as bad. Joe Burrow suffered a very similar injury, and he's out for 3 months. So, 3 months in the NFL is the majority of your season. The Bengals have the next 8 weeks to find out if they're even going to try and bring Joe Burrow back, or is this a lost season? And I feel like if they can't get to the point of being able to bring Joe Burrow back, you're looking at this as probably it for Zach Taylor. So a lot of things to keep in perspective on those things that, I know we don't like the injury news, but it could be worse. And so we're thankful it's not. I will say it was nice to see them win a gritty game that was a tough game that the defense needed to close, and they closed. That is the difference between last season and this season. The offense last season was moving the ball a lot. They weren't putting up a ton of points. Now they were able to finish a little bit better in the red zone this time than they were against Seattle, but it feels like they've left a ton of points on the board. The biggest difference, though, was fourth quarter scoring differential. Last season, the 49ers were the worst fourth quarter scoring differential team, and they lost so many games because the defense couldn't stop any teams from scoring in the fourth quarter, and the offense couldn't score in the fourth quarter. We saw that script has been flipped the last 2 weeks. Or the first 2 games of this season, that the offense is scoring in the fourth quarter and the defense is closing the games. This is huge. You're seeing the impact of Robert Saleh and not just sitting there in cover 2, cover 4, cover 3 buzz and lining your defensive line up and just hoping they all win their one-on-one matchups because Bosa is being paid a ton of money. So, Bosa, you should be beating a triple team and everybody else is singled up and you should be winning one-on-ones. They're not just living off that there is so much more creativity along the defensive front, and they're really focused on causing chaos in the pocket, and it's happening. And so they're winning these gritty games because the defense is closing. The fourth quarter scoring percentage or differential is on their side. That is huge. That is absolutely huge because last year's team is a 10 or 11 win team if the fourth quarter scoring differential is the same as what it is now. And so last year they weren't able to do that. It is happening this year. Those are really positive signs for the team this year. Have they pushed themselves into that upper tier of NFL teams? No, because they are still a young team that is really growing. This rookie class was huge in this game. Very much what we saw in the signs of the rookie class last year in that first meeting win over Seattle, that the rookie class came up big time. Interceptions by Malik Mustafa, by Renardo Green, Dominic Puni being the starting right guard. Isaac Orendo had the big run. Like that rookie class was absolutely pivotal to that win last year. The rookie class for this year was absolutely pivotal. You're talking about Connor Colby stepping in and playing very, very well against this Saints front. Now, the Saints don't have a ton of studs along the defensive line, so he wasn't tested as much as maybe Seattle would have tested him, but he still held up and obviously was not overwhelmed by the moment of the game. And so when they say, the moment wasn't too big for him. The game isn't too big for him. What they're meaning is, does somebody get so overwhelmed by being out there in the NFL and the speed of everything that they completely lose their technique? They look like they're panicking. His feet looked great. His footwork looked good in the run game. And by feet, I mean he was keeping his feet moving, ready to change direction in pass pro. He was ready for some long arm stuff. He's keeping his footwork as where the steps are supposed to be, was good in the run game. So all those things were really impressive to see there. Michael Williams really playing a lot better. Alfred Collins playing a lot better. Marquis Siegel playing the way he's been playing and coming up with some big plays. He did give up, a really tough touchdown. I mean, that was an incredible play by Saints tight end there, where I don't put that on him. But when you're talking, and then Upton Stout, it's continuing to play really well in that slot role. And he had the one big sack and then other plays that don't show up on the stat sheet. You look at this rookie class was huge in this win. You're talking about 5 starting positions on that defensive side that all came up huge out of rookies. If you ask any NFL team, can you draft 5 rookies this year that are going to play, 40+% of your snaps in week 2 and you win the game, how happy would you be with that? Every NFL team out there would be ecstatic that they have that kind of a draft class. And then when you pair that with the draft class from last year of 2024 with Renardo Green, Dominic Puni, Ricky Pearsall, and Malik Mustafa should be coming back at some point and bringing another big lift to this defense. The draft classes from the last 2 years are looking extremely solid. Really, really solid. This is building a new core of this team and should just get us all on the hype train. So really excited about that and what they were able to bring. I'm not going to be able to keep up with everything in the chat. I am flying solo, so I'm jumping back and forth between the chat and my notes. So if you have any questions in there, it's got to come through on something really noticeable. Just saying, not fishing here, just letting you know that I've got to be able to see it stick out from the chat. Man, D Winters, I will say D Winters was electrifying in the game. He really does look like the hype was real. We saw flashes of it last year, but he couldn't stay on the field. And it seems like there was a very concerted effort to get his body to the point where he was going to be out on the field all the time. And this is also every week that he can be out there and not miss time is time that he's buying Nick Martin to be ready in case he has to step on the field. So that's really exciting. Just like this is all positive along the way. The special teams field goals. We had field goals getting hit right down the middle. I never thought I would be so excited to see a 40-yard field goal look so out of question. I mean, let's go. Let's go. I do find it a little odd that Jake Moody got released by the 49ers, then said, I think I've just got to take a step away from football, clear my mind, and all this stuff. And then like the next day was signed to the Bears practice squad. I thought you were taking a break away, but hey, look, I'm not going to begrudge him. He's going to go make that practice squad money. That's a couple $100,000. So I don't blame him for continuing to do that. But if you're in a point where you're like, I need to get away and really, refocus and clear my, like process through the PTSD of this, that I've got to, figure that out and then go jump on somebody's practice squad to maybe have to be elevated to be their kicker. I don't know. That's a little something. But I will say, Mac Jones, I mean, great job coming in and filling in for Brock Purdy. No, there's not a quarterback controversy here. But this is why you brought in Mac Jones, because Mac Jones was somebody that you knew the play style was going to be very, very similar to Brock Purdy, that he could make that the throws are going to be very, very similar to Brock Purdy. He's somebody who has a good processor, was put in a horrible situation there in New England and things spiraled. And you could feel like he just kind of crumbled under the immense weight of an entire franchise, all blaming him, and a fan base all blaming him for their struggles when they just weren't a very good team. They made the playoffs the first year he was there, but then that team just became so bad, and they had so much cap space, but they didn't want to spend it all on different things. They were still like, well, we're going to build through the draft, but they didn't get a lot of good draft picks. They didn't hit on a lot of good draft picks. So things spiraled for him. He went to Jacksonville, got his mind reset, and then has come back here. He's a goofy guy. If you watched his presser, he's just kind of a goof. But I will say he had to settle down, missed a number of easy completions there in the first quarter. And that was kind of a thing. He was just holding the ball a little bit too long on some things. Some of that is receivers getting knocked around too much. A lot of teams are really trying to get physical with 49ers receivers at the line. That's where Brandon Ayuk was such an asset. He's so good against that press and that physical kind of coverage that he was always able to work through that, and the way he just kind of funky moves to go around sometimes people trying to chip him. Like there was one play, Juwan Jennings was running a clearing route, and it was Cameron Jordan was dropping into coverage and just leveled him. And so him and Pearsall are in the exact same spot at the exact same time. It muddies the read. There's just, it doesn't stretch zones. And so Mac, I almost said Brock, but Mac is just holding the ball. He should have checked it down, and he didn't, and it leads to a sack. That's kind of some of the stuff that you're seeing. But there was one play, it ended up being huge because we scored a touchdown down the drive, 3rd and 14. Mac Jones hit Ricky Pearsall over the middle, and it was a high-level anticipation throw. Is classic concept we run all the time, dagger. But it also showed, and I put this out on my X account if you want to go see the play and the breakdown of it, because I don't have time to do it here. I've got about 2 minutes and I got to out. But that the eyes that every team will always make sure they have on Christian McCaffrey is just fascinating to watch. It's 3rd and 14. Christian McCaffrey is on a 5-yard route, and you have 2 underneath zone defenders are eyes on him, ready to attack Christian McCaffrey. And that is why you get these intermediate zones so wide open. It's not just Brock Purdy. It's not just Christian McCaffrey. People say Christian McCaffrey makes Brock Purdy and Brock Purdy makes Christian McCaffrey. The reason why, and Mac Jones can make these intermediate throws and those layered throws so well, the reason why these guys pair together and it's so tough to stop together is that you have a quarterback in Brock Purdy, and then Mac Jones showed this as well, that can make really, really high-level anticipation, layered second-level throws. And when you pair that with a Christian McCaffrey, that is really hard to stop because it puts so much stress on that first and second level that those guys are helping each other out. Not every quarterback is going to make the high-level second, intermediate, layered throws that Brock and then Mac Jones were able to do. A lot of quarterbacks struggle with that kind of touch to layer that throw over there when teams are sitting there on Christian McCaffrey. And so then they have to retreat more. And then that means Christian McCaffrey's more open. So they feed each other. It's not just one or the other, but it's so fun to watch the way that these two guys really build each other and this offense ties together. And they are still so shorthanded. There's still Demarcus Robinson's got to come, who, when he comes back, will probably be the number 2 receiving target there. That you really have no other options outside of Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings until they signed Kendrick Bourne, who had some big catches in this game, but was clearly still trying to get back into the offense. When you're looking at even just Demarcus Robinson coming back, you're saying, okay, now we have 2 guys who can separate versus man coverage. Kendrick Bourne and Juwan Jennings aren't necessarily separators. They're contested catch guys. So seeing them able to have separators versus man coverage more than one so that teams can't just double Christian McCaffrey is really fascinating. To see that potential to be paired then with George Kittle is even better. And then when Brandon Ayuk coming back, even better. And you have Brian Robinson taking the load off of Christian McCaffrey and Jordan James having enough time to come back and get healed. I will say all of these things look really strong, that if you can weather through the beginning of this season and the defense can continue to close and support the offense while they are trying to get their unit healthy and together, the offense could really take off near the end of the season. Now, there's a lot to happen between then and now, a lot to happen, but they have the makings of an offense that could be extremely explosive and productive down the second half of this year as they get all their pieces back. And that will then allow the defense to go through some of their growing pains and the rookie wall. That's the concern I have with the defense is you have a lot of rookies. When does that rookie wall, when they hit that rookie wall, and can the offense kind of give them time to get their footing underneath them with that rookie wall and be ready for that? Because I'm sure that's a big talk within them as far as with these rookies of saying, okay, it's time that you need to get these routines. You need to be ready because come the end of November, this is going to hit you like a brick wall, and you have got to be ready to run through that wall. So that's where the veterans really need to come around these kids, especially Marcus Siegel and Upton Stout. But again, you have Malik Mustafa coming back in. If you need to give Siegel a break for a couple weeks and you have Pinnock and Mustafa, I feel good about that. If you need to give somebody if you need to give Upton Stout a break and Chase Lucas can come in for a couple weeks, you can do that. The way that they're rotating their defensive line is set up for that. There is no set rotation of like these guys are playing with these guys every time. That's what's fascinating to watch. It's not just like Kalia Davis, Jordan Elliott, then Collins and CJ West. Sometimes they're mixing and matching all those guys, and so all those guys are staying fresh. It's really fun to see. But appreciate you guys hopping in with me for a quick show. Oh, coming in at the end, Lisa, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, can't wait until everyone comes back. It's gonna be dangerous. Our offense and defense, everyone get ready. That is 100% true. Totally agree with that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Lisa. We're going to get out of here as we expect the 49ers to be awesome. Once I get out of the dentist appointment, I'm going to be sitting there with half my face numb, but I'm going to be watching the tape, and it's going to be great. But I don't have Adam here to cut off, so we're going to have our normal closer, and that is until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, go Niners.